We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
Hush now, city kids, gather round for other myths. Hush now, city kids. When it came to me after so long, I didn't have no choices in the streets where I was from. When I think about the pain, I didn't have no choices, I took what I had sworn. Hush now, city kids, gather round for urban myths. Hush now, city kids. But you know, they wouldn't let you have it any other way.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters, the Fans Forum, going all the way through the summer. So good evening to George, Barry, Ian, Kevin, Spenny, Pablo and Alan as well. And I do want to dedicate this episode to Mindy Moo, Pablo, and I don't want you to get upset, but the sad news was so over the weekend. You lost a pet, mate, and our thoughts are with you, mate. It's never nice losing a pet, and I know you've been going through the mill this weekend, mate, but listen, we're all here for you, kid. Keep your chin up, and we'll get you through the summer, hopefully having a few laughs, and we'll have a new podcast as well that we're going to be doing, non-football related. So watch this.
What's that about?
Watch this space. Me and Lee have got history. We've done a podcast before, but it's not what you think. And as I say, watch this space. The clue is in the words. Anyway, I want to talk about Tosin, George, and he's not coming to Newcastle by the looks of it. It looks like he's going to Chelsea. It's been the debate over the weekend. We had it, of course, on the Amigos and then with the professionals yesterday. What's your thoughts on Newcastle having a high-profile signing, I guess, in terms of publicity and being in the media quite a bit about looking as if he's going to stay in Chelsea? Were you surprised?
No, because the questions that you lads were asking Neil on professionals and on Three Amigos, the answers he was given, I could tell there was a hesitancy. There was something not quite right. So it wasn't entirely a surprise. The way it works, though, if somebody's associated with Newcastle United, it's immediately a huge story, especially if it's a failure, because the Southern press just love to have a go, especially if one of theirs is on the winning side, like Chelsea are at this moment. So I wasn't surprised, disappointed in a little bit, but not in another way. If the kid's able to have his head turned just by going to London, then fine, goodbye. We don't need you on Tyneside. It's funny. It takes us back to when I used to do the admissions at the university at 20 years, and I used to go to all over the world, the colleges, to interview kids and talk to their parents. And the first question after we had the session by parents, by mothers particularly, was, how far are you away from London? As if that mattered about anything. But it mattered to them. So I had to find an answer to that question. Well, I didn't. I give up. I just used to take Marjorie and she used to answer them. But as I say, if that kid's had his head turned because he's had a week or a weekend in London with Chelsea, well, he's not who we want, is he? It would be nice, But like the old saying is, plenty more fish in the sea, and quite a few will want to swim northwards.
Barry, you're doing the list for us. Over 100 players linked with Newcastle. Transfer window not even open yet, but Tosin was linked prior to the season ending last season, along with Lloyd Kelly from Bournemouth. And I was speaking to somebody today, just a pal of mine, Ray, who made an interesting suggestion. He says, well, a lot of people saying, why hasn't Lloyd Kelly been introduced, and why hasn't he been announced? One would imagine he probably wait until the kit comes out on Friday. Any publicity, you're going to want it with Adidas. You know what I mean? The first signing is going to want to be photographed with Adidas, and they're not revealing the strip till Friday, so maybe that's the reason. But yeah, Tosin, were you surprised to see him not come to Newcastle, mate?
I was, because there was all the right stuff was being said, wasn't it? All the positives were coming out, and then I'm now totally confused, Dave, because everybody, like you see over the shows over the weekend, said, oh, he's been offered this much extra money, blah, 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 at Chelsea. The story that's coming out from the likes of Ben Jacobs, who is usually absolutely spot on, that Chelsea haven't offered him anything astronomically more than we have. The only thing is the guys looked at it, like you say, and said, oh, it's in London, so I'm staying there, which to me is even worse. I mean, I totally agree with what you guys said yesterday. If somebody said he's an extra 60 grand a week, you're not gonna knock it back. But if he's been offered the same sort of money to be a reserve at Chelsea, which is all you'll be, he's going to be one of 8 centre halves. You think that really, how could have made you into a regular England player? He's got that ability, it seems, to turn players into. I would never have believed in a million years Big Joe would have played for Brazil when he first signed, but he's obviously a valuable member of their squad now. It's that disappoints us. I think you're right with Kelly. The story that's going around seems to be that he's going to sign on the 6th or the 7th, which must come close to Friday's date. Something to do with his contract, that he's not releasable till that date or something. So it wouldn't surprise us if he doesn't show up wearing the new shirts and whatnot. It's disappointing, but like you say, we've had another 3 names added today, so it's up to 107, and you just think it's the one I want is the one that Les keeps mentioning in the chat, which is the goalkeeper, Mama, as we're going to call him. Apparently, we've offered 41 million. We've offered for him, supposedly, if you believe the stories, and it said that Valencia had a 40 million release thing in his contract, that they wanted at least 40 for him. And I think he's if he's as good as he looks, he's well worth that sort of money. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that Mama is going to be our next signing through the door. Because like it said the other day, Valencia have signed another keeper, so he's definitely going somewhere. I'm just hoping it's us. But then obviously, what happens to Popey? Does he do a runner? Because he's not going to be happy being second choice. But I think that's a bit disappointing if he runs off as well.
Yeah, okay. Ian, good evening, mate. Tosin, interesting to see Newcastle.
You've got to say his name right, Steve.
Yeah. Well, we're doing, because we're not going to sign him now. We're not going to sign him now.
I can't believe that nobody's had the headline tossing off with the Chelsea rent boys.
Hey!
I wrote that.
I tell you what, mate. You wasted me. You should have been working for the News of the World. Headline writer.
I'm not as thick as I look, Steve. Well, I am.
That's classic, anyway. But yeah, he's gone, and and looks like he is going to sign for Chelsea. It's all done and dusted, and I don't blame the kid if he's going to get more money, and I don't blame the kid. He's not going to upkeep. Have a load of bookkeeper.
He's definitely getting more money. You wouldn't go there if you weren't getting no money. They've got no manager. They just about look stable. Honestly, it's unbelievable that they've sacked the manager. Like from the absolute shit show that it's been, and he suddenly stabilised them. And then where they finished and what they did actually, when you look at it, it's bloody. You wouldn't have dreamt that at Christmas or even shortly after, So anyway, that's their problem. I think that he has been offered a lot more money. I don't know anything. I know nobody, but I imagine that's what they do. They come in, they'll chuck money at somebody, and he's going there. And to be honest, if it's 60 grand a week, if we offered him 100 and they've offered him 160, remember he'll get a fat signing on fee as well, which will probably be bigger than we'd have given him, because they can somehow afford to, that sets him up for the rest of his life. You know, and he's got no ties to Chelsea. He's got no ties to us. He literally is at Fulham anyway, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah,
he's 2 underground stops away from Chelsea. You know,
it's a no-brainer.
Where he probably lives in Chelsea anyway. It's one of them where I think from what Mitch had said, and I know that Mitch would never have even given the information he gave if it wasn't rock solid, because we know how he works, and he didn't give too much, but he gave a little bit when he said he's definitely really happy with the option of coming to Newcastle, and the fact he hasn't, the only way I can see that he hasn't is because of money. And you know, that's the game at the moment. We're not at that level where we can offer that. And also, do you know what it is? He's a centre back for a team that's got pummeled this season. He's been good. I'm not going to lie, but you know, it's not the end of the world. And he's not the best defender in the world either. And there's others out there. So next.
Yeah, next, exactly. And next is Kev. Kev, what's your thoughts on missing out on this guy? I mean, can you remember a game that he's played? Is there a game that stands out? Because it's often the way that it happens now on social media. People start waxing lyrical about how good he is and it's a great signing, etc. And then if you turn it around on them and say, what was that? Tell us a game that he played. Just so I can. People haven't got a clue. You know, people sometimes just join the merry-go-round of saying he's a great player.
Yeah, and YouTube only tells a certain story with highlights and clips and reels of certain players of their best bits, and that's the unfortunate thing about it. And everybody, like you said, jumps on the bandwagon with it. But again, from the start I've seen, really, was he that the player that we wanted? Does the player want to come up here? Was that the real reason? Again, the money talks, like Ian said. And George took the words right out of my mouth in terms of plenty more fish in the sea. Barry will tell you that because he's got over 100 of them on his list. So again, look, you can do all your analysis, you can do all the recruitment, you can do all of this for certain players, but ultimately it's the player choice in what they want to do. We can only offer them so much from a financial standpoint. Chelsea obviously decide other ways and means to do it. You know, that's on them. So look, we'll move on and we'll find probably a better player in the window further down the road.
Spenny, you're probably quite prolific in our group for sending it's all like updates and stuff when you get time, which is always quite handy in case we miss out on stuff. But you were probably one of the first people who mentioned Tosin to me and said that Newcastle had been linked with him. What's your thoughts? Is it a bit of a blow for Newcastle or not?
Well, to be honest, Steve, when I found out he was linked, I watched him a few times for Fulham. I'm thinking, why are we linked with this player? I'm not just saying it because he didn't sign mine, by the way. He's a young lad. He's got a lot to learn. But I thought we could get better, But he's a free transfer, everybody knows. It's up to him where he goes. It's nothing, the club, the agent and that, it's up to him. He signs the gear and he's definitely gone for wages. Like Ian said, it's the 160, what I've been told anyway. Which he's been offered mine for 100 grand, I think. But the location, obviously, when you're a young lad, London, and he's obviously 2 stops away, like Ian said, from where he is. So it's a no-brainer, really, for him. But, they've got 8 or 9 different defenders anyway, so that's the way he wants to go. It's up to him, isn't it, at the end of the day? But we'll just go on. It's his loss, end of the day. It's his loss not coming here. That's all I've got to say about it.
Pablo, your thoughts? Is it his loss? Are you disappointed? What's your feelings?
Before we kick this off, mate, I play a game on the computer called Football Manager, as you know, because I send you clips now and then of my achievements.
Yep.
Because I'm going to get the Newcastle job one day. Obs. I'm going to send you some screenshots after the show. How weird's this? So I signed Adarabioyo, but I've now fucked him off to Burnley, and I got Trevor Chalobah in exchange. And I swear to you not, I'll go down. I've got Mama in my net already. I've already signed him at the beginning of this season. Need I say more? But no, the job's on
I love it. I might just come and watch your team and say, I might jack my season ticket in, and I'll just come down to your place, mate, and watch your watch your progress.
Exactly. But on a serious note, I think Ian nailed it before, because I was down in London when Newcastle were playing Fulham, and I did a walk around Chelsea's ground. Then we flitted off to Fulham. So for him, it's a no-brainer. I mean, he's obviously living in that area anyway. Somebody's going to give him a couple of quid. He doesn't have to uproot his wife, his girlfriend, or whatever. And we always come up against that in real terms at Newcastle, don't we? If there's a London club been involved in the past, there are certain players that are motivated by where they're located. So it's just one of them. There's going to be another 20 or 30 of them over the summer or over the next window or two. So something we got to deal with. Man City have done it for years, where players are going there to sit on a bench. So we strike him off and we move on to the next target.
Alan, because Darren's at the England game tonight, you can actually reclaim your title of Mr. Negativity if you want.
Well, not really. I mean, everything the lads have said. I mean, a couple of things that I just didn't touch on was Pochettino wasn't that keen on him before he got the sack. That tells you one thing. What the lads said about moving, it's a no-brainer really if you're getting extra money and you just live down the road. Could any of one of us say if you're getting £60,000 extra, turn that down if it's reported saying? I just find it is a blow in the sense that it hurts your feelings that you didn't get a target that you're after. But can anyone who really say 3 or 4 weeks ago that we're actually going to go for Tosin?
It's only because he was free, Alan, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Yeah. In 3 or 4 weeks down the line, Ian, we'll have forgotten about him, really, to be honest. He's going to be a bench warmer for Chelsea. It is a blow because it hurts your feelings. You know, I mean, it's like you were saying, Ian, about wages. We're not up to that level. And this is where commercial-wise, we've got to get up to that level because one of the Sky reporters said when Chelsea came in for him, well, it was a no-brainer between Chelsea and Newcastle where he was going to go. And it did hurt your feelings, but I'm thinking we've got to have a reality check of where we are financially. Can we have afford 25 players on £100,000 a week when the PSR is holding we back? We can't. So we'll move on, everybody said, and we'll go for the next target. Like Ian nailed it, really, and all the lads have. We'll move on.
Yeah, we do move on, and we've moved on off the pitch as well, George. Friday afternoon, of course, Newcastle announced the appointment of Brad Miller as the club's new chief operating officer, which a lot of cow jokes being made over the course of the weekend with the fact that the abbreviation of these letters make the word coup. Although I was a bit lost on me when a cow actually goes moo, not coo. But anyway, Brad will lead on the club's capital investment strategy. He'll work with the club's existing operations team to ensure Newcastle United continues to provide exceptional experiences across all sites. He has got a decent CV. He's held a range of senior leadership advisory roles, mainly in the aviation and property sectors. And he comes to St James's Park from Ferrovial Vertiports, which is a subsidiary of a leading global infrastructure operator, operates mainly in aviation facilities around the world, which then set tongues wagging about the potential of his involvement in, ground relocation, etc., because he's got a background as a chartered surveyor. He's provided leadership for a range of major transformational projects, including the delivery of a 1.3 billion transformation of Manchester Airport's Terminal 2. So he's had a lot of experience in that kind of stuff, in infrastructure, in other industries. So, it sounds as if it's a great signing. What was your thoughts, George, when you heard that? Oh, he's muted. There we go, George. I've got you there.
You don't want. Sorry, you don't want to have somebody that's used to dealing with 1,300 quid that's going to be dealing with 13 billion quid. You've got to have somebody that's used to dealing with those sort of numbers, and he clearly is. That's the important thing for me. And the other thing I liked about him was that despite all his high-powered jobs, he still looks like a normal guy. he just dressed in a nice lounge suit and a casual shirt. He wasn't walking about with any sort of over-the-top style at all to make himself look more important than he is. I quite liked it in what I read about him, and I think it's. I go back to where we were about the director of football. They've set their stall out and done these processes to get these people. If they get it wrong, then they need their head in their hands, because they've spent a lot of time and careful time getting it right. But I think on this occasion, on that one, I think they probably have got it right. And I just like the look of him. And as I say, when I read the bits of the CV that were coming out, he's somebody that's used to handling billions and not tuppence halfpenny. I mean, who was what they call a guy that worked for Ashley, who Charnley. I mean, Charnley did everything, and nobody actually knew what he really did, I don't think. So we've got somebody who's used to handling all of that. The fact he's got experience in construction and aviation, all the rest of it, is good for the knowledge base in the club. But I think that's not what they've brought him for. They've brought him to push forward all the commercial things that they're interested in. And why shouldn't we? Because they're very important. And Steve, while the lads were talking before, you and I recorded a show this afternoon, and the outcome was the top 6 in the league in 2006 was the top 6 that we call the what do we call it? The ones who rule the roost. They were ruling the roost.
Greedy pricks.
In 2006. So
okay.
Yes.
Well, let's
hope that this guy can shake some of that out of the tree.
We'll bring in Darren, who is a roving reporter tonight. He's at St James's Park. Darren, you all right?
Hey, Daz, are you in the comfy seats there?
Well, I've just done the fitness test, Steve. I failed for today, so I won't be playing, unfortunately. Big fitness test, hard. And I'm only like... You are?
Sure.
I'm not going to know, mate. So, with negativity, how do you cheer up Jordan Pickford tonight? You can't. If he's playing.
Good stuff, mate. So are you looking forward to
not many people there, Darren?
Whereabouts are you sitting, Darren?
Yeah.
Whereabouts are you sitting? Can you show us where you're sitting?
I'm sitting 3 rows from the back.
Right.
Heaton, you might be able to stand up then.
And then, that's my view.
Get them
God.
behind you standing up, and then you can stand up.
Wow.
So, I'll let you go. I can barely hear you, boys.
Yeah, well, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for coming on, mate. Have a good time. We'll get back out of this solo shot, and there we go. Good to see Darren there. Hope you enjoys the match anyway tonight. Okay, Barry. The appointment off the pitch is where we were at. What's your feelings about the off-field appointment? It doesn't get us as excited, does it? I guess, but it's still a big one.
I mean, that's it. We have all this talk about the director of football, and I think it's only when you sit down you think, does it really matter? As long as it's somebody who's half decent, who comes in. For me, it's about the scouts and the players that we get and the ones who do the negotiating with the contracts and everything else. But like George says, this guy obviously knows what he's doing. He's got all the stuff in his history that he's been there. He's dealt with big businesses. I think. What I would think with the Saudis is they're going to really have had their fingers burnt with Ashworth being such a prat, because you think all the stuff that they've been through with him and his behaviour and everything, they're going to be very wary of bringing any other numpties in. So, like you have said, they're going to have done their background checks. I mean, I would have thought that with Ashworth, but he did appear to be decent. What was that? Over the what? I'm not going to mention it. So hopefully he'll come in and he'll hit the ground running. I think they seem to have this ability now to bring in the right person for the right job. The only problems we have behind the scenes is the ones who are still hanging on from when Ashley was there. But I suppose give it time, they'll get rid of those ones as well. But yeah, looks another good signing. I just hope the players start following him in.
Yep, it's an off-the-field signing, Ian. We don't get as excited about that, though. But it's he seems to have had a lot of experience in other areas, not necessarily football, but comes in to be working below Darren Eales, and obviously working alongside the likes of Peter Silverstone. Be interesting to see what happens with this guy. But what was your thoughts when you heard that news?
Sorry, my missus has just sent us a funny message, so it just pulled us off my track. I don't know much about him, but what I've read about him is that his background is in property development, is in land development, and that, I think, probably tells a story of why we're getting him in. You know, that maybe his remit is to look at developing the new training ground, which is inevitably going to happen, and to project manage whatever's happening with the stadium, whether it's a new stadium or as we think it'll be the development of St James Park. So yeah, I think it's a good appointment. Well, they wouldn't have. These people, they only appoint the best. Now they didn't get it wrong with Ashworth. What they didn't do is realise that the bloke's a little penis. Is the least rude way I could think of describing him. You know, he's got the loyalty of a sewer rat. And he proved that. And you know, for me, I hope that we just keep him in his garden as long as possible. So, but actually, I was waving a little bit when George was speaking because I didn't want to be rude and interrupt. But George was talking about our old sort of bloke who did all that stuff, with Charnley. And I actually, believe it or not, I don't know whether I've told you this before, but I actually used to play cricket against him and his son. Did I ever tell you that, George?
No.
Yeah, he played like before. Obviously, I'm too old and fat now. I've retired this year. But yeah, he played in the West Tyne League. He was shit at that as well. He used to get some stick, but he actually, to be fair, his son was a nice kid and he was all right, you know. I think he suffered as he basically was like the whipping boy because he came up through the ranks at Newcastle. And I'm not sticking up for him here, by the way. So before anyone starts bullying us or anything, he was all right. Yeah. I think he was just a bit dim and he wasn't up to the job and he did his best. You know what I mean? Like he did at cricket. He was shit at cricket. He did his best. Rubbish.
He was promoted. He was promoted. And he was promoted too early and went through from being a T-boy to running a football club. Yeah. It's a hell of a jump.
Especially when you're talking about a football club that has 52,000 supporters who are absolutely, fanatic about the football club. And this bloke, probably be very good in small business. He's probably a fairly intelligent lad, but this is like a high profile position where, you've got to have the minerals to do it, and you've got to have a set of nuts on you as well, and know your stuff. This bloke who's coming in, none of us really know much about him, do we? To be honest, but he's got a background in developing land.
Airports, aviation is his background. But yeah, look, it's an interesting appointment. Kev, I'll come to you next. I mean, it's again, like I've said to everybody, it's an off-field appointment, but it seems Newcastle are constantly on the lookout with people, for people who can improve their backroom staff, their team in the boardroom as well as people on the pitch.
Yeah, and you've got to build a backroom staff as well, outside of coaching, outside of everything. You've got to build a proper business of people who know what they're doing. They don't have to have football acumen to run a business like airports. And I look at airports and football stadiums as very similar. You've got a lot of people in on a weekly, daily basis, and you have to have that sustainability across the year. So that's what he's been brought in to do, and redevelop it, make it I think Mitch said it on the professionals or the amigos. It needs more than a lick of paint, this stadium. I know that within the feasibility studies and stuff like that, the walkways are too small for even a new revamp. They're too small, so they've got to do renovation work to that. They've got to rejig stuff around, and this person coming in knows how to manage it all, from a very simplistic football stadium to a massive £1 billion airport. It's very, very similar. So, look, good luck to the lad. I hope he brings in the commercial revenue. There's other things in terms of, like you said, the training ground, they're even probably looking in fan zones and the stack stuff and other things in and around the city, the redevelopment of the city, all of that. So, look, this is why you go and headhunt the best people in the world, within England or wherever, to do their job and do it right and do it properly and do your due diligence, not within the director of football that's got a fantastic garden at the minute. So if you do your due diligence properly and right, and then you get the right person in and just let them do the job, and Darren Neals can oversee it and he can be the head of it all, and with Amanda and Jamie Ruby and Mirdad and all that. So yeah, onwards and upwards. Again, just hopefully if you on the playing side that we'll get somebody in just in the higher ilk, but in a football sense.
Spenny, what's your thoughts?
Well, the worst kept secret in football has come out, and Mbappe is signed for Real Madrid.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's the move I think we all expected. So that's might kickstart a few others around the world. But yeah, cheers for that. What about the
devastated, Steve? Devastated. Could have been in for him.
Callum Wilson's breathing a sigh of relief, for his nipple is anyway.
Take it off the list, Barry. Yeah. What's your thoughts on this new director then, Spenny?
At the end of the day, football's a business, isn't it? And you get business people in. And he's obviously got his CV, which George has explained nicely as well about. He's got the CV to obviously get the infrastructure into St. James's Park, to get obviously the restaurants, the bars, get sorted out, because it's absolute disgrace what we do with refreshments, I think. Also the expansion of the stadium. He's the man to go in and do all this. And like George said as well, he's a £1 billion business he's been involved in. So he's no pushover. He knows what he's doing. So it's just another feather in the cap. Just leave the football to the football people, leave the business to the business people.
Exactly.
That's how it works.
Spenny, spot on, Spenny.
You know better than anyone, Spenny, with your involvement with the council. Like with your local council, you can get put in a position. But if you're not fit for purpose and you can't do the job, and you're just full of hot air, let's put it that way, then you cannot do the job, and that's what we need to get away from. It's not all. It's a business, this, and it could be probably one of the best appointments we make if he does his job well.
No, it's most definitely. And like I said, what you mentioned about the council, I go through finances every day, and I have to sometimes where I've resigned anyway from the council at the moment because of politics. But my job is finances anyway, so I do daily business. I know exactly what goes on, but that's not the part that he's bringing in for. I think he's in for the infrastructure, getting the right people in, getting the right things in for the fans and all that, and hopefully he might sort the tickets out as well. A bit of luck.
Pablo, thoughts on the new coup?
I think we need to address how happy Darren looks first. I mean, I've never seen him glowing like that. He was like a pregnant woman. He was glowing.
He's by himself, that's why.
Yeah, so he didn't have to buy anyone a beer.
With appointments like this, it's strange being a fan, isn't it? Because this is where we really have to put the trust element in the owners. If you say to me, we've signed X player, we've all got a rough idea who they are, we've all got an opinion, and we've all seen the work that they've done at the clubs. But appointments like this, it's like out of fresh air. You could pick any name, but this is where we're going to have to trust the owners. As regards going forward, football is that, Spenny, you know what I mean? You've nailed it. We'd all like a club legend to be in these kind of roles, but that just isn't football nowadays. It's got to be a business manager. It's got to be someone who's 9 times out of 10. I'd say probably better not involved in football because they don't have that emotional tie. So therefore they can expand their little baby as such. And I think it's good that there's no ties in football at that level. But it's going to be a suck it and see job. But yeah, as a club going in the right direction, I mean, the way it was run before, it was like Keystone Cops, wasn't it? You know, I remember going to a game when Ashley was still in charge of the club, and I remember taking my old man. And we got up there before the game had even kicked off, and they'd run out of pies. And I always remember turning around to my dad going, how can we have run out of pies before the game's kicked off? And I remember saying to him, but that's the way we were run back then, wasn't it? It was shocking. So, yeah, going in the right direction, and hopefully he'll come up trumps. But, yeah, we need to be doing more of that. We need to put structures in place. Which
I think Steve Acey put it on the head. I think Steve Acey put it on the head when the takeover happened. We don't want 6 people in the ticket office like they had with Ashley. We don't want this. We want different departments with different areas so we can run it as a business and the football business. That's how it should happen.
Okay, Alan, what's your views on the new man in the boardroom?
Right, a lot of the lads have nailed it, haven't they? Going back to the 90s, lads, I mean, look at Fletcher, who transformed with behind the scenes, and he sold more Newcastle tops in Scotland than Celtic and Rangers. It was just unheard of, you know. So you need them men behind the scenes.
Very Fletcher.
That's so important, lads. And Pablo nailed it, you know. And it's not every top manager has played football, but he's got these teams to the top level of football. Jose Mourinho. I said it a few months ago when somebody asked us about what's your opinion about, you know, Dan Burn, and they were hitting back that, you know, he was class, and I was saying he's a good player. It's all about that. It's getting the back best in class, and I agree with Ian. Ashworth was a great signing. It's just he's turned out nasty. He wants to be with his pals at Man United. So what can you say? It's turned out bad, but he was a good signing, like they all have. And it's what Pavel says, the proof's in the pudding going forward to see what job he can do. So the more the merrier for me. It's a good appointment if he does his job, like Ian said. So long may it continue. Another brick in the wall. We need more. And the director of football is the next one. Let's hope they get it right and move forward through that. So it's a good appointment.
430 people watching live tonight, even though it's a sunny night on Tyneside. Thanks for watching. We've got 130 of you watching on Facebook, LinkedIn,
Thank everybody.
Please, if you're on one of those other platforms, during the ads, open another window on your computer, search NUFC Matters on YouTube, and hit the subscribe button. We do 7 shows a week. Here's the ads. A big thanks to all our sponsors: Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. Their website, mrvickies.co.uk, telephone 01768 210 102, or email info@mrvickies.co.uk. Thanks to United Group Travel. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. Their website, unitedgrouptravel.com, email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com, telephone 01670 632 460, or mobile 0791 666 4174. Thanks to Media Arts for the technical side of things. And you can also find us as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or other podcast providers. You can subscribe to the channel by hitting the subscribe button underneath this video. Hit the all notifications bell so you don't miss a show. Hit the thumb up to like the channel, and click share to your social media. If you want to join the channel, then click join for as little as $1.99 a month. If you want to become a member for a one-off £25 payment, email john@nufcmatters.com or go to membership at the website nufcmatters.com. If you've got a smartphone, hold your camera over the QR code and it'll take you straight there. We also help the food bank on this channel. Go to nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk to the matchday bucket and you can leave
a virtual donation today.
And a couple of other shout outs for a few events that are coming up. The end of season party, 20th of July, Tyneside Irish Centre, and tickets are a tenner from nufcmatters.com or newcastlelegends.com. Supermac and Gibbo, George and the Longsands on stage in aid of Dementia Matters. Another event taking place in the summer, Rob Lee and Gibbo are doing an event together at the O2 City Hall in Newcastle. Tickets are available via ticketmaster.co.uk for £15. And the Euros are just around the corner, and Gateshead Leisure Centre is reopening, and they are doing televisation of all of the group games. They're going to be streaming every Euros fixture in the centre. 4 weeks of non-stop football, a bottle of Peroni and pizza for a £5 at the centre. Go and have a workout before you go to the game as well. But big thanks to Gateshead Leisure Centre for coming on board for the next month to promote the Euros. Okay, we did make one signing since we all last met last Monday, and that was Mark Gillespie, George, who was signed another contract. He was a free agent following his release by Motherwell when he signed at Newcastle, of course, a 3-year deal in the summer of 2020. He's made a trio of Carabao Cup starts in his first season, but he hasn't featured competitively since Newcastle exercised an option to extend his contract by a year in 2023, and now he's done so again. He was named as an unused substitute by Newcastle 14 times in League and Cup fixtures. He is the 10th current senior player who is out of contract in summer 2025, though, along with Dan Burn, Dubravka, Fraser, Kraft, Lascelles, Lewis, Shaw, White, and Callum Wilson. So he's tied down for another season, George. Were you surprised to hear that? What do you think the consequences are of that?
Well, not after I heard the manager talk about him in Australia, because Howe interrupted an interview, took the microphone and said, "You all praise the guys who are on the pitch, but this is a guy that deserves praise." And he outlined why he likes him at Newcastle. If the players want to stay back and have somebody to shoot at, he volunteers and stays, does extra work and all of that sort of thing. Now you can't afford to have too many people like that around, but I don't think it's a desperate thing to do to have a goalkeeper that does that. Gets lots of practice and fit all the time. And in a dire moment could actually stay in. As it happens in Australia, he actually saved the penalty and won the match because of it. So at first I thought, well, why? What's the point? But Eddie Howe, to me, explained what the point was, is that he needs people around him who are prepared to work and do the hard miles, the hard yards. And it sounds like Gillespie is. The fact that he's local and the impact that has on selection for Europe, that sort of thing, not that that's going to bother with at the moment, is quite important as well. So, yes, it was a surprise. But as I say, after I heard Howe's glowing tribute to the bloke in Australia, I thought, well, yeah, no wonder he's got another year. It's something. It's an Aunt Sally that Howe doesn't have to look for because he's there all the time. He's got him now.
What's your feelings, Barry, about Gillespie signing up for another year?
I'd have let him go. I think the kid's got no ambition at all. He's never going to get in the team unless we have two major injuries again. He's not that good. I've always had concerns whenever there's been any mention while Dubravka's been in the team that he might get an injury and we had to call on Gillespie. I think he's a poor third choice keeper. If it was me, Steve, I'd rather have a young'un coming through who you can give that experience to and gradually. Gillespie's never going to get any better. He's at that level and he's at that age now where he's never going to improve past what he is. I'd rather have a young'un coming through. I think I would spend money. I'm hoping, like I say, we'll get this new keeper in. I would do me damnedest to keep Pope. And then you've got these two quality goalkeepers fighting over the first choice and put a young'un in as a third one. It leaves Howe open to people having a dig at him like they did about Richie, like they've done about Dummett. it's another Howe's little favourite gang that he likes these people who he gets on well with and he likes around the club, but I won't see any purpose in him being there. I'd like Dummett and Ritchie, the past their pass by date probably 2-3 seasons ago, when I would rather have young'uns coming through and taking up those squad places. But I know why Howe does it. Like we say, he likes attitude as much as he does ability. I just think nah. I don't like players who are just there to take the cash. And that's how I feel with Gillespie. He knows he'll not get a game unless it's a friendly or a minor cup game, maybe at best. And I just think, nah, you should be wanting to play first team games somewhere else, mate. But that's just me. I want players who are gagging to be playing every week, not just happy to sit on the bench and cash in their wages.
And the big conversation in the chat earlier, Barry, was, is that a table behind you that it's like precariously poised on one side?
It's a dining room table that was in the kitchen, and since there's only me here, I know.
Is it bollocks? It's a door. It's a door on its back.
Did you ever? I've got a feeling that Barry probably went on loads of game shows when he was younger, like Blankety Blank and Bullseye. And basically, he's got a collection of prizes behind him. You haven't got a speedboat in your backyard, have you, Barry?
There's a speedboat and a camper van in the back garden.
You could have won, Barry.
A Dulux coffee machine.
It's a missing a woman's touch, Steve. If there's anybody out there who's interested in coming and.
Well, there we go. At the party, Barry is looking for love.
Yeah.
So we will.
Who wants a table?
Don't bring your doors and tables with you, Barry. That's my advice. Ian, Mark Gillespie. I mean, you've heard two completely different, polar opposite opinions there. George, who having listened to what was said about Gillespie, in Australia, can understand why it's been done. Barry, wish he'd been shown the exit door. What's your feelings, Ian? Are you somewhere in between, or are you coming down on the side of George?
So before I go on to this, I just want to do Barry a favour here and just tell him to speak to the man on his right-hand side, George, because he's got a harem of women on his WhatsApp. Don't you worry about that.
I know, but they're not going to choose me over George. How are you?
No, George is generous. He'll share him around. Anyhow, sorry. We're not here to pimp George out, are we? No.
I'm going to have a raffle to see which one goes to the party.
No comment. Anything I say right now would be not suitable. What was that about? Oh,
Gillespie.
Yeah, Gillespie. Gillespie is, for me, I'm going with George on this, and I very rarely actually disagree with you, but he's like the Scott Carson of Newcastle. I see him as that. And when you look at Pep's get Carson around for how long, and he's never going to play, is he? Very rarely plays anyway. He might play the odd game. He was a good goalkeeper in the past. Now he's, I don't know how old he is, 40 or whatever he is, but he's a good influence around the place. That third choice goalkeeper, I'm going to have a look at private chat. No, I think. I think it's. Personally, I think that we've lost two major influences in the hierarchy of the changing room, with losing Ritchie, who was not that I know much, but I know just from seeing what he did when Gordon spat his dummy out after being brought on and then took off. I was there and I watched Ritchie put his arm around his shoulder, take him away. And after that game, I don't know whether I might be putting 2 and 2 together and getting 8 here or something. But after that game, it was as if Gordon it was as if he grew up. It was as if he got, you're not a kid anymore. You can't spit your dummy out. You'll get away with it this once, and I'm here for you and I'll help you through it. That's what it looked like to me. I don't know whether anyone else seen that. I'm sure they did because I'm sure it was reported on. But he literally took him, as they were clapping us, he took him to one side. And that game, he changed after that for me. It's like he grew up and, got a pair of bollocks. So I think anyway, going back to the question, Dummett's gone. Dummett's been there for ever. Ritchie's gone. Richie was definitely one of the hierarchy in the changing room, and I think that the reason he's kept Gillespie is because of that reason. He's a third choice. He's never going to really get to play unless we're really unlucky. But it must be his influence behind the scenes. And he did save a good penalty. You've got to admit, it was a good save.
Yeah, in Australia, he certainly did. Alan, I'll come to you, mate, so that you don't have to go last this time. And yeah, what's your feelings on Gillespie?
I'm like half and half. I'm sitting on the fence here, lads. I can understand Barry's point of view, but I must admit, with Karius going and obviously linked with this new keeper, whether we get him or not is another matter. But then Pope might want to go. So, and Dubravna's not up to scratch now. He's 35, going on 36. So, I think Howe's covering his backside in a way by having a keeper there. So, if there is anything wrong in the summer where they're lacking keepers, he's got to have a backup, really, to be honest with you. So, I totally agree with what Ian said, and Barry and George. So, I'm sitting on the fence. I can understand the situation because, like you just said, Steve, there's 10 players out of contract next year. There's a hell of a overhaul in players. Maybe he's not getting signed up or extend their contracts because of the players you mentioned. There's very few I would keep after next year, Steve. So he's got to keep that squad harmony. It's all about squad harmony with Eddie Howe and keeping that nucleus of what the club means to the fans and the club. That's why he's kept Dummett going, kept Richie going, and he'd probably keep the Cells maybe going later on, but that's getting off the point, lads. So I'm sitting on the fence. I can understand both points of the arguments here. So he's Yapper, he'd be on tiny wages compared to other players. He'll only be on about £10,000 a week, which is, I know, laughable compared to the average working man. But I can see both points. And I would say to Barry, he's only going to be here another year, and he will be off the books next year. So I can see Barry's point of view of young keeper, but I think you've got to have that little bit of experience and know-how as well behind the scenes.
Okay, what's your thoughts, Pablo?
I think, well, Alan's just nailed it there. He's not going to send us into bankruptcy, is he? I can't imagine. But looking at Barry's point of view, I probably share the opposite because the third choice goalkeeper has always been not laughable, but it's always been a bit of a taboo. It's either young or old. But I'd say with a young keeper being number 3, that could kind of dislodge their kind of career path where they could be out at a lower league club gaining first team experience rather than just sat watching the other lads. I mean, yeah, you could look at it two ways. They could be rubbing off them as a good influence, or they could be sat there getting disillusioned thinking, am I ever going to get in this team? So the third choice keeper in Gillespie's case, and I'm looking at it even further down the line, if we do get this lad Marma, I'm not going to attempt his name, Marma of Asheville Lily, he's only a young kid himself, So if you think you've got Nick Pope going for number 1, you've got the young kid Marma, Gillespie's going to be a perfect go-between in the middle. He may be an ally of, say, Marma with Pope. You know what I mean? There might be a bit of competition there, a bit of bad blood, maybe. Gillespie just provides that cover, cheap wages. He's classed as an English homegrown player if we get in anything next year. I don't see the negative side of it. If he was on 100 grand a week, I'd be saying boot him now. But like Alan said, he's going to be on very, very minimal compared to some of them.
He's on 10 grand a week, I think, from what I've seen.
Is it? Well, I reckon there'll be some youth players that'll be on that, would there?
Don't know.
Probably not for us, but maybe.
And again, keep a little bit of the nucleus of what's been around and the positive kind of stuff. I mean, we kind of praised Trippier for that kind of clubman attitude earlier in the season. So why not have a third choice goalkeeper there that can maybe just G the other two lads up?
That's a really good point as well, Pablo, that there is a small chance or a big chance or whatever, or a chance that Trips might be away.
Yeah.
If Trips goes and Richie's gone and Dummett's gone, that's a big part. There's what's left, Danburn, and then newer people, I guess, coming into this team, so I think it could be
transitional, mate, and you can't just flick 11 new players over one night or 22 squad. It's got to be transitional, and we're doing our best at the moment to shift on in stages. So I think, like you say, it'll be next season in that next stage, maybe.
All about opinions. Lawrence has had a couple on tonight. This is his latest one. He says, Howe wants to learn it's a football ability that wins games, not loyalty to him and running. We'll never attract top players with Howe's style of play. It belongs in the dustbin. So Lawrence not happy with Eddie Howe's way of running the football club. All about opinions. Spenny, Gillespie signed on the dotted line. Thoughts on retaining him for a year?
Right, it's a squad game these days. It's not a team game, and it's just like Scott Carson in Man City. He hasn't played many games. He's thereabouts. He's going about, and he's there for the training. Like George said, is like Eddie Howe. I think most of the philosophy of what Man City's coming and doing is what Eddie Howe's putting into his team as well. Keeping players like that into the team, like George said, stopping back and helping them train. Because you think about it, the goalkeeper's always in goal, but the players always have a shot on goal. So every player needs to have a pack of shots. So they do need a keeper in. So for me, yes, I think we've got rid of two, haven't we? Two keepers anyway, haven't we? Karius and the one, I don't know who the one was. The Polish lad I'm keep looking at, I've been told good reports about him. 16-year-old, he's in the youth team. He's supposed to be absolutely fantastic. So maybe he might break into that sort of mold. But we'll just have to see. It's silly season, isn't it? We get linked with all these players and we don't even know who we're going to get. So it's just all links at the moment to have that white top one.
Yeah, third choice keeper Bruno Blue Chua says third keeper has nothing squad position, and if you can find a keeper that's happy to take that role, then keep him. It's only a year. Yano says everyone's entitled to an opinion, even when they're wrong. Any Geordie who wants Howe out, absolutely mental. Be careful what you wish for. Not everyone can be a superstar. Even Madrid has backup keeper, says Ian. And Geordie Boy says, well, why not have a fourth choice in the very worst case of scenarios? Kev, what's your thoughts on this? Just to finish off, Gillespie getting a new contract.
Well, he's a local lad living the dream.
Yeah,
so basically, looking at it from the completely other side, and I agree with some, disagree with others in terms of what everybody's opinion said about it. But as a goalkeeping collective, as a group of 4 or 5, young, old, doesn't matter age, with a goalkeeping coach, you act as if the third or fourth choice goalkeeper, you act as a goalkeeping coach anyway, because you're doing a lot of service, you're doing a lot of things that like an outfield player would provide in training sessions. So, and he's been there, he's done it. He's been around the block a few times. How many thousands of hours of practices or training sessions has he done? So he's been there and done it. So if you've got somebody there in that Eddie Howe trusts in that element, with Alan Bartlett as the lead goalkeeping coach, and you've got another one, and you've got 3 people there collectively working yourself as a first team or a pro. Then you've got Nick Pope or whoever, Martin, whoever it was, and a young lad. You've got like 6 or 7 goalkeepers there within that, what do you want to call it, the union essentially, to develop and move forward. And there's that no dickhead policy that Eddie Howe has, and I don't think Mark Gillespie is one of them. And it, like others have said, there's a consistency there of a voice in the changing room. If we're losing 2, you're going to have that a similar voice in and around it, who's going to demand, even though they're not going to play, they might not be as good as them, but they'll know what the demand is from the manager, from the coaching staff, from the fans, essentially, because he probably is one. So if he relays that information on as a player to others, new players, even outfield players, and that message is getting put on a different way from the player's perspective, then it's a year. It's not, it's not another 5-year deal making 50 grand a week. It's peanuts at the end of the day, literally peanuts. And like I said, he's a local lad living the dream, kicking the ball about.
I think you and Spenny between you might have hit the nail on the head there, like with what you're saying. What he lacks maybe in being an actual goalkeeping attributes, he might have lots of it in mentally, and like that penalty save and the way he came in after not playing for so many years. He actually played okay. He's not the greatest goalkeeper, and all right, yeah, he made a few mistakes. but he might be the person that Spenny's talking about, like best friend behind the scenes. We don't know. And that kid might need someone like him. That kid might have all the attributes that he doesn't, but he might not have the mental side of it. And we let's be honest, we haven't got a clue what goes on. If Eddie Howe says he wants to keep him, and he's given him a contract, so then who are we to disagree with it?
Especially when he had Steve Bruce socks on his stag do as well.
It's a good place. It's a good place to end it, lads. Who said there's nothing to talk about during the close season? Big thanks to Alan, to Pablo, to Spenny, to Kevin, to Ian, to Barry, and to George, and to you and all the moderators and everybody in the chat. Those of you who've been watching on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, search NUFC Matters on YouTube and subscribe. It's 7 shows a week. I'll be back 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon with Sid and Rob and Talk of the Tune. See you next week, fellas.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, lads.
Take care, lads.
Okay.